If your dog has ever refused to leave one particular person's side, kept returning to the same place despite correction, settled near someone for no reason you could name, most people call it clinginess. Some call it a behavior problem. What it sometimes is neither of those things. Rachel had been a pediatric nurse for 8 years when Owen was born. 8 years of vital signs, developmental assessments, and the kind of pattern recognition that only comes from watching thousands of children in rooms where parents are certain everything is fine and occasionally aren't. She was, by her own accounting, someone who paid attention to things. She was also someone who was, for the first time in her adult life, deeply tired in a way that the job hadn't prepared her for. Owen was 15 months old. He had recently discovered that he could stand without holding anything, and he practiced this skill constantly, feet planted wide, arms slightly out, wearing the particular expression of concentrated effort that toddlers carry like a credential. He was healthy. He had been seen by 3 different pediatricians, 2 of whom were colleagues of Rachel's. He was developing on schedule. Denali had been with them since before Owen, a Siberian Husky, silver gray and white, 75 pounds, brown amber eyes. They had gotten him 2 years before Owen arrived, and in those 2 years he had never given them a reason to worry. He was calm, he was consistent. He was the kind of dog who made guests comfortable, who lay quietly in rooms without demanding anything, who had integrated into the house the way a piece of furniture integrates. Simply present, simply part of things. It was a Tuesday in February, the kind of Tuesday that does not announce itself. Rachel had come home from a night shift at 6:15 a.m., made coffee, and stood at the kitchen window watching Owen in the living room, where he was practicing his standing. Denali was on the sofa. Everything was as it had always been. It started the following week. Denali began positioning himself on the sofa whenever Owen was in the room. Not lying down to sleep, positioned, head elevated, eyes open, watching. Rachel told him to get down. He got down. Within an hour, he was back. The third time it happened in a single afternoon. She sat and watched him for a moment. He wasn't watching her. He was watching Owen, specifically Owen, with the kind of sustained attention that dogs usually reserve for something they are trying to solve. Owen was standing at the center of the carpet, arms out, practicing. He wasn't looking at Denali. He didn't seem to notice the dog's attention at all. She told Denali to get down. He walked to the carpet, lay down, and within 35 minutes was back in the same position on the sofa. Over the next 10 days, the pattern established itself completely. Every time Owen was in the living room, Denali found the sofa, not the floor beside Rachel's chair, not his usual spot near the window. The sofa arm, which put his head at exactly the same height as Owen's head when Owen was standing next to it. She noticed it. She filed it under something that needed to be addressed. Rachel had grown up with dogs. She understood territorial behavior. She understood resource guarding. She had also spent 8 years in a pediatric unit, which gave her a specific relationship to the concept of probability. The probability of harm, the probability of a near miss, the probability of a risk factor that looks like nothing until it becomes something that cannot be undone. A 75-pound dog on elevated furniture positioned at the eye level of a 15-month-old who was still working out balance. This was a risk calculation, not an accusation. Denali had never been aggressive. He had never snapped, never growled, never done anything that warranted concern in itself. But size and proximity and a toddler's unpredictability were enough. She did not need a near miss to justify a decision. She also understood, as a mother and as a nurse, that the behavior she was seeing was consistent with attention-seeking in a dog who had been, until 15 months ago, the only significant dependent in the household. Dogs displaced by new babies sometimes sought elevated positions to reestablish a sense of presence. It was documented. She had read about it. She was right about all of this. On Thursday morning at 6:15, she installed a baby gate across the hallway entrance to the living room. Denali could see Owen through the bars. He could hear him. He just couldn't get to the sofa. She was making the correct decision with the information she had. Denali sat in front of the baby gate for 3 hours. Not whining, not barking, sitting. He watched through the bars the way dogs watch things they are not confused about. On Friday afternoon, she found him back on the sofa. She didn't know how he had managed the gate, and she didn't spend time working it out. Owen was standing next to the sofa, looking up at the dog with that evaluating expression, and Denali was positioned at the arm as if no gate had ever existed. She made the second decision. Friday evening, she moved Denali to the laundry room when Owen was awake. Dog bed in the corner, water bowl, adequate light. She did it without emotion, the way she did things at work that needed to be done without emotion, and the door latched with a soft sound that she didn't let herself think too much about. She didn't know it, but she had just removed the only detection system in the house that was monitoring the right signal. It was 11:47 p.m. when the baby monitor pulled her out of sleep. The sound was not crying. It was a rhythmic, repetitive sound she did not immediately locate on any known map. Quieter than distress, stranger than sleep, arriving from Owen's room in a pattern her brain took several seconds to process. She was at his door before she was fully awake. Denali was already there. She had no explanation for how he had gotten out of the laundry room. She would check the door the next morning and find nothing conclusive. What she found in that moment was a large silver dog pressed against the outside of Owen's crib, his front paws on the lowest bar, his face over the top rail, staring down into the crib with an expression she had no word for. Not aggressive, not confused, focused, the way a person looks when they are trying to communicate something that their language cannot carry. She thought, he got out and now he'll wake Owen, and tomorrow I call the trainer. She stepped toward the crib and looked in. Owen's eyes were open. His right arm was moving. 8 years of pediatric nursing activated before her fear did. She named what she was seeing before she understood what she was feeling, the rhythmic, involuntary movement of a toddler in the early phase of a febrile seizure. Her phone was already in her hand. She was at the crib rail speaking to the 911 dispatcher before she had processed the full sentence of what she was seeing. Denali stepped back when she leaned over the crib. He sat on the carpet 3 feet behind her. He did not move again. The ambulance arrived in 6 minutes. Owen was stable. He was alert within 12 minutes of onset. By the time they reached the emergency department, he was asking, in his 15-month way, for water. She sat in the corridor outside his room and tried to think backward through the last 3 weeks. The pediatric neurologist found her there 40 minutes later. With first febrile seizures in toddlers, the neurochemical changes that precede onset can begin hours earlier, sometimes significantly earlier. The child's body is signaling before any monitor in the home would register anything. In some documented cases, before the parents notice anything at all. You had warning. You didn't know you had it, but the warning was there. Here is what we know. Researchers at Queen's University Belfast identified specific volatile organic compounds present in human perspiration and exhaled breath in the hours preceding a grand mal seizure, primarily isoprene, a byproduct of neurological hyperactivity that the body releases before any visible symptom appears. Dogs trained as seizure-alert animals learn to respond to these compounds. Their accuracy in peer-reviewed trials runs between 80 and 93%. But the documented cases of untrained dogs showing sustained, directed alert behavior toward a specific person in the hours and days before a first seizure, behavior exactly like what Denali had been showing for 3 weeks, are not explained by that training literature. The most credible current hypothesis is this. Pre-seizure electrical activity in the brain produces chemical signatures continuously at concentrations too low for any instrument in the home to register. The dog registers them. What looked like territorial behavior, a large dog claiming the furniture, refusing correction, returning again and again to the same position, was an untrained animal doing what trained animals are specifically taught to do. Position itself near the signal source, stay close to it, refuse to be redirected away. Every time Denali returned to the sofa, he was returning to his post. If your dog has recently attached itself to one family member specifically, following them, positioning nearby, returning despite correction, note the person, note when it started. That behavior has a target. Owen was home 36 hours later. Simple febrile seizure, a single event, not a condition. The neurologist said the phrase twice, the way physicians say things they want you to carry with you rather than worry about. It landed the second time. Rachel sat on the laundry room floor the morning they came home, back against the dryer. Denali's empty dog bed in the corner where she had put it 4 days before. She brought him out of the laundry room and sat on the floor of it herself, which she understood was a strange thing to do and did not require justification.
"I'm sorry,"
she said. It was the first time she had apologized to a dog. Denali rested his head on her knee and looked at her with his amber eyes and said nothing, because he was a dog, and he had not been waiting for an apology. She stayed there for a long time, her hand resting on his side, until Owen called from the living room in the wordless way he called for things at 15 months. Denali still sleeps on the sofa. Rachel stopped arguing about it. Owen doesn't understand what any of this means yet. He is 15 months old, and to him, Denali is simply the large gray animal who is always nearby. But some nights when Rachel comes into the living room and finds the two of them together, the big silver dog and the small boy, both of them watching the door, she thinks about what the neurologist said. You had warning. You didn't know you had it. What happened in that house is not unusual. Pre-seizure neurological activity produces chemical changes in a person's body before any visible symptom appears. Researchers have documented this pattern in both trained and untrained dogs across multiple peer-reviewed studies. The behavior does not require training to emerge. It requires chemistry, and the chemistry is already present. If your dog has recently begun following one family member specifically, positioning itself near them, returning to the same location despite being redirected, staying close through the night when it didn't used to, that behavior has a target. It is not a behavior problem. It is not clinginess. Note who the dog is staying near. Note when the behavior started. Note what changed in the weeks before it began. The dog is not misbehaving. It may be doing the only thing it knows how to do with information you don't have yet. If a dog that stationed itself at a child's crib through the night surprised you, what a German Shepherd in a farmhouse in Tennessee did for 11 nights before anyone understood it is harder to explain. That story is next.